Welcome, everybody. My guest today is Mr. Dane Espegard, who is the North Star Division Manager with Vector Marketing and Cutco, headquartered in the Minnesota area. And Dane grew up in Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin over his early years. Started with the company in Wisconsin, where he graduated from University of Wisconsin at Madison with a degree in economics. Dane is a 17-year veteran of the Cutco Vector business. He became a district manager in 2006 in Wisconsin. He ran a division in the Omaha, Nebraska area for 4 years before relocating to Minnesota in 2013. And his business has grown year over year in Minnesota to become one of the top divisions in the company. And his office was the #1 sales office in the company in 2018. Dane met his now wife while he was down running the business in Nebraska. They have 2 young daughters, and Dane is helping legions of people throughout his organization, throughout the central region, and throughout the company to be able to live their dreams. He is an amazing leader that I feel privileged to have on the podcast today. So Dane, thank you so much for making the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun for sure. So let's begin by talking a little bit about how you got started with the Cutco Vector business. So I know that it was back in 2002, and just tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up working with Cutco Vector.
Yeah, good old newspaper ad. I graduated high school. Yeah. Graduated high school with a whole lot of McDonald's experience under my belt. So I worked at Mickey D's for pretty much 4 years, and then quit at McDonald's right when I turned 18, about a month before graduating high school, and just kind of figured I would, land something that was more exciting than McDonald's now that I was 18, and couldn't find anything for about a month, and then saw an ad in the newspaper that said $12. So applied, went in, got a job selling knives. It was it was in Milwaukee area, and we lived kind of a town 30 miles outside of Milwaukee. So I wasn't familiar with Cutco at all. Went home, told my parents about it, and they were not, it's kind of like the prototypical Cutco story. I think I went home, mom and dad weren't too fired up. And I kind of negotiated myself like a 2-week trial to see how it was going to go. And, dad said, you can't borrow any money from me if this doesn't work out. And I confidently said, yeah, no big deal. But, that was I think my first little moment of, oh crap, what if this doesn't work? But then I went to the office, and Kevin Hanna was my original manager. And so he was, at that time, I don't know how many years in the business, but he was a veteran at that point. And his organization was huge. I remember walking in, there was 40 people in training, 6, 7 assistant managers. One of them happened to be from my high school. And so,
cool.
Yeah, it was kind of off to the races from there.
Yeah. I had the same experience going home, and, my parents kind of laughed at me and didn't think I could do something like this. And I feel like that is a common experience for a lot of Cutco reps. But you had a good summer. You did well. You succeeded, became an assistant manager. What have been some of the more transformational experiences along the way for you that have yielded some real valuable lessons?
Yeah, I think about I spent 4 years in Kevin Hanna's organization. At that time, there wasn't the same, especially in the state of Wisconsin, there was a little bit different rules and guidelines. And so the branch opportunity wasn't there when I was a student at Madison. And so it was a rep, and then assistant, sales manager, then pilot, all in the same office. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely benefits to that. But I still remember after my second summer, I was an assistant manager. And I remember at the end of the summer, our boat cruise, Conference of Champions type deal, I remember talking to Kevin and stating my desire for the next year. I said, hey, I really think I deserve to be the pilot sales manager next year. And so this would have been I was asking for it for between my sophomore and junior years of school. Mm-hmm. There was some older, one person in particular who was older and going to graduate college. And Kevin said, no, it's probably going to be that guy. And I said, I know he's not a long-term person. I think you should give it to me. And so we had the most heated conversation I've ever had with Kevin. Kevin doesn't really have heated conversations. And I remember at the end of that conversation being really upset, but it was the first time, and it was a great lesson for me of sometimes I feel like I should get something or deserve something, and it's probably better that I don't. And that next summer was amazing working with that other individual. His name is Lyle, and learned a ton. And I wasn't ready for the position. And then the following year when I was pilot, it was such a great experience for me. And a lot of it was because of what I learned in the previous summer. And just the lesson of, just because I wanted it at that moment doesn't necessarily mean that it's right.
Yeah. I think it's also cool that you were willing to ask for what you wanted, because not a lot of people do that. And I think that is an important part of being able to develop our confidence and open up the doors in life, is asking for what we want. And then when you didn't get it in that particular instance, you handled it properly. You kind of got in line, worked with Lyle, had an awesome summer working with Lyle, and became an amazing pilot sales manager the following summer. So I do think there's a lot of cool little nuggets that came out of that right there. What else have been some key experiences for you that you want to talk about?
So there's two others that I can think of vividly when you'd ask that. One was the end of my sales manager summer. So same summer, but it was 2004. I'd gone back to school, and I received an email from a representative of ours that summer that had sold about $10,000. And our office that summer, I think we did somewhere in the ballpark of 600,000. So, the rep that did 10K, this person was a key staff member, wasn't really in the group, if you will. Like, she was a part of everything, but she was very, very quiet. And she had sent me an email stating that if it weren't for Vector, she could see herself having ended her life at the end of the summer or sometime during that. And she was dealing with all of these things. And the email was a very long email that was basically a thank you for supporting me and working with me and giving me this opportunity this summer. That individual never worked with Vector again. At that time, we didn't really have Leadership Academy, so we didn't have that net to kind of, provide somebody a path after that. Mm-hmm. But it was somebody from the very beginning that after the first day of training, she needed to stay after to talk to Kevin, who was the trainer, and Kevin didn't have time because he was working with some other people. So as a sales manager, I kind of swooped in and helped. And she said, "Hey, my parents are going through a divorce right now, and I don't know if I can get the assignment done." And in the moment, I just, I didn't necessarily recognize what I was doing, but I, said, "Hey, we understand, we get it. Do what you can. We'll be understanding of it. Just let me know tomorrow. Let's spend a little time together." And it was somebody who did 5 demos a week, but we were her place, right? All summer, we were her place to escape to kind of be a part of something that wasn't her home life. And I don't think as a student, I had recognized the type of impact that we have in Vector, but just that people have in general when you're there and you support somebody and believe in them. And so that was an aha moment for me that, hey, I can do a lot of good being here at Vector.
Wow. That's an amazing story to hear. And it really speaks to this concept of changing lives that we, like to feel like is what we do here at Vector and Cutco, is that we truly do change people's lives, and that you had a chance to impact somebody at a time that was a critical moment for her, and set her on a track that is going to be hopefully has ended up really positive for her versus where it could have been, and that's really a compelling example of the importance of the leadership and the influence that people can provide to others, whether it be in Vector or anywhere else, right? We all have an incredible effect on the people all around us. And she was lucky to have been around someone like you at that time.
Yeah. And I think with the making a difference in somebody, I think as a Vector manager, it's a lot easier to see the difference that we make when somebody's here for, a handful of campaigns or years or summers or whatever the case is. But sometimes we make the biggest impact in someone who, we never get to find out, right? Because they're not here long enough. And I think of, hey, this individual sent me an email, but I'm sure there's plenty more across the country that have been impacted that don't get to say the thank you. Right?
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. You said there was another story that you had that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. The other one, I don't know if there was, it was more of kind of a full 6 months, if you will. And it was in 2010. It was my at that time, my worst summer ever. I still kind of consider it my worst summer ever just because of the emotional stuff that happened as well during that. But we had come off of, timeline wise, I moved to Omaha 2009, and we had just a breakout year right away and had our first $1 million year. And it actually came pretty easy that summer. And that was my first summer as a DVC. So my confidence, maybe a false sense of confidence, was really high. And I started planning with my pilot for summer of 2010 of, hey, these are the numbers we're going to do, and spoke as if there was no chance that we're not going to do it. And the summer was very difficult. We had a lot of challenges. I didn't deal with it great. My pilot didn't deal with it great. And it was the first time in my, 2002 to 2010. So my first 8 years that I kind of had experienced not having a really exciting, fun time with Vector, and experiencing the opposite of that. And I at least had enough tenure with the company to understand, hey, I probably shouldn't decide to quit in the moment. And so let me wait this thing out to SLC, and SLC being our, national event for managers. And I went there and spoke to a bunch of other managers and tried to listen differently at that event. And the thing that I had heard most commonly from every speaker in terms of DBMs was their commitment to growth. And that was the first time that I kind of got honest with myself to recognize that up to that point, I essentially had skated by on pure talent. And I talk about my go-tos that I relied on for a very long time were my energy and then charisma. But I never really was the person who spent it in the work ethic. But I never was really the person that spent tons of time like scripting training or, working on my craft and on my skill. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at it now, I recognize that I kind of hit my ceiling in terms of what my natural ability was. And to get to where I thought I should be, there was a really big gap there. And the gap was I needed to work on myself and on the business, and not just, think and expect to grow year over year without putting in the work. And so I committed at that point to say, hey, I'm going to do a new growth routine. I'm going to read. At that point, I wasn't reading, anything personal growth related. And so I started doing a new normal morning routine where I, work out and read, just a normal morning for a lot of leaders in Vector. And as that started to happen, as 2011 started, I then went on 11 out of 12 consecutive campaigns of growth. And, I haven't kept track of it since, but the things that I started doing then have stayed with me for a really long time. And I recognize there that, hey, I can grow as much as I want to in the business, but it's always going to be, a few months or a few campaigns behind what I'm doing personally.
Wow, that's such a great insight right there. And I do think that will resonate with a lot of the young people who work with us, and a lot of people in any walk of life, that I think there are people I've had in my organization that came right out of the gate and did really, really well because they had talent, they had charisma, they had energy, they had work ethic, like you were saying. And one of the conversations that I would typically have with people like that is to say, hey, let me show you what some people have done, many years down the road, whether in Vector or out of Vector. And I would give them some examples of some incredibly high success stories. And then I would let them know, like, they were once like you. And everybody that reaches these super high levels where they're part of the 1% of achievers in Vector, or the 1% of achievers in the world, they all make a decision. Do they just want to be really good because you have the talent to just be really good? Or do they really want to be great, amazing, world beating? Because that takes a higher level of commitment to learning and growth. And ultimately, what I find is that most people eat that up and they feel like, I want to be a part of the 1%, like, help me to do that. And a big vehicle for that is that commitment to growth, learning, ongoing development, really pushing yourself forward on a regular basis versus just sort of continuing to drift forward, because eventually you do max out your capacity based just on that. So I thought that was a really good point, Dane.
Thank you. And with that too, I felt like one of the things that stuck with me is when I was filling myself with that stuff where I was, whatever I was reading at the beginning of the day. And now, it's a mixture of reading as well as podcasts and whatever else. But it was just, I was handling things differently because I was having a different blueprint each day, right? So as things were popping up, as problems, as issues, people problems, all of those things, I was more equipped to handle them quickly in a way that was going to serve me and my business and my people, as opposed to in the past, just kind of the same cycle over and over and over again, right? And then running into the same issues in and out of the business as well.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to that idea that like the level of thinking that got you to where you are now is not the level of thinking that's going to get you to where you want to be. And so your thinking has to evolve in order to be able to have better solutions to problems and implement those solutions to succeed at a higher and higher level. So who are some of the key people who have most impacted you on your journey?
Obviously, there's been quite a few. Being in the business for a long time, I got to start with Kevin Hanna being my first original manager. And I think starting his organization, being able to also witness him, my experience in Vector for 4 years was Kevin Hanna as I don't know how old he was when he started, but a married guy with, 3, 4, 5, this is going to sound like a joke, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids. Cause that's what it ended up getting to. But I remember many times going to his house and being with his family and enjoying meals with them, and just seeing somebody run Vector with the family was great. But I got to learn from Kevin how to treat people right. And I don't think I've ever seen Kevin make a decision in what's best for his financial gain. To me, I don't know if that's ever even come to the equation with Kevin. And then also, Kevin taught me, and not in the moment again, but looking back, that it's okay to let go of more if somebody's hungry for it. Because when I did get the opportunity to be pilot for him, I remember going in and saying, Kevin, I'd been waiting for this. So it was like, Kevin, I know the former pilots did this, this, and this. Here are all the things that I want to do, right? Essentially, give me everything. And, Kevin essentially was like, all right, sounds great. And, his trust in my hunger, I think was great. So he was the first one. Dave Durand would be another one. He was my first region manager. And Dave I still don't know if I've seen many people match his ability to make other people feel great. And whether he was speaking from a podium to a large group of people, or he was, just on the phone or in person with one individual, he has a great ability to be able to make people feel special. And that's something that I learned from watching him.
That's really cool.
And then I'm kind of rattling through them, but Greg Strine, he was my first division manager. So when I opened as a DM, I didn't have a division manager. So Wisconsin wasn't a full division then. So there was a kind of a lax period of one campaign. So my first summer in 2006, I didn't have the DVM at all. So it was just kind of me running an office and Chris Naku north of me, and we would call each other, and that was about it. Greg got promoted that fall. And what I learned from him is the value of a partner. Right from day one, I was so hungry for that leadership. I called him every day. He took my calls. I probably called him, far more than once a day, but he always took my calls, gave me the time, and he really did a great job of giving me direction for, what I should be thinking about, how I should be thinking about the business. And the amount of time that he gave me in those, 2 years that we worked together was immense.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And then the last would probably be, again, there's others, but Mike Muriel, my current region manager, he's taught me just kind of how to think bigger and how to think differently than maybe what the norm has been. I think it's really easy in Vector and probably in every business to, just look at, hey, this is the way it's done, so this is the way that we're doing it. And with Mike, I really enjoy having conversations where, well, does that serve us, right? And the reasoning that the thoughts that got us to that, 15 years ago, it's probably a little outdated. Let's rethink this and figure out if it's still the right way of doing it. And he's such a action-oriented guy. I really enjoy working with a leader that it's not just talk from them in terms of like, getting stuff done and really pushing the needle.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's raised the bar in so many ways in the company that he's the perfect person to have those kinds of conversations with about how to think bigger and take things to a new level. So it's a cool lineup of people that have impacted you, and I like that you're able to dissect the lessons from each one. So let's talk a little bit about your current organization. So you're running the North Star division. It's your team name is the Dream Team. And I know that you have sort of shaped your organization around this principle of pursuing one's dreams, both inside and outside the business. And how have you, tell us a little bit about this and how it evolved and how you're shaping, people's vision of pursuing their dreams.
Sure. The kind of all of it comes together from the day I became a DM. Company had Matthew Kelly come in and speak in, I don't know, I'm pretty bad at remembering what year was what, but I think it was 2007 maybe, that he came and spoke to us, and he wrote The Dream Manager. I read the book, and awesome book. I loved the idea of that position and having a dream manager, and the quote that I remember, I don't remember if it was from that book or just a quote that I live by, is that when somebody has hope in the future, there's power in the present. And I think that's been so true for me personally. And that has been kind of what we've centered our entire division around with the dreams mentality. So I made a dreams list whenever I heard that, 2007, something like that. We did it as an office. And then I basically never looked at my dreams list again for like the next 4 years or something. As I was going on that growth path from 2011 and 12, before moving up to Minneapolis, I read a couple of books that had to do with culture and kind of recognized the different cultures that I had in my organization at different times, and how it had formed without me giving it a whole lot of thought and saying, this is the culture I'm going to have. It had just formed because, right? Culture is going to form no matter what, whether or not we design it. And so when I was further along in my career, when I had the opportunity to move to Minneapolis for the North Star division. And so when that happened, I gave it a lot of thought that fall in terms of what I wanted the new division to be. And anytime somebody moves organizations, I feel like it's easier at that point to, create a new culture from scratch, because, they didn't know the old one. And right. So I went in with the team name, North Star Dream Team, and right from the get-go, we started using the dreams lists. And I knew from just working with great leaders in the past that if I wanted something to be very vibrant in my organization, I had to be the leader with it in my own life. And so my wife and I, at the time, we were dating, but we did, right when we moved up here, we did our first kind of dreams retreat, just her and I, where we put a lot of time into our dreams lists, and then we spent New Year's Eve basically sharing those, figuring out which ones we were going to accomplish that next year, and then we started booking things. So I still remember New Year's Eve 2012, we spent a lot of money on online, paying for my first marathon, booking a skydiving event, booking a trip, doing a lot of things that were on our dreams list that was going to happen that next year, to make 2013 like the most exciting and vibrant year of our lives. And it was awesome. And then I started doing the same thing with our district managers. And at first, I didn't necessarily have a really clear, here's how this is all going to happen. It was more, I'm going to aggressively pursue my dreams with Brookelynn, and I'm just going to do it out loud. Right. And then I'll help people create their list. And then from there, I'll just kind of hope that they'll figure it out. And it worked. It worked to a degree. And the people that were around the organization longer, it worked even better. But so let's see. The first thing that I essentially did after that was record a dream session, we call it, a dreamstorming session, where we help somebody brainstorm the 8 categories that we go through, like travel, material, family, faith, adventure, health, financial. Like there's different categories we take people through. Mm-hmm. and I don't think this is, no way do I think this is unique to me. I completely, took the idea from the book and then, put our own little twist on it. We made that. So the office has had that to utilize with their individuals. We threw a portion into each of our, the term SLDM, but one of our kind of regular meetings, we would give people a little taste of the dream storming session. And that worked. And then 3 years ago, I think it was, we took this to our DM team and we did an overnight holiday party with spouses and significant others. And I took all of them, including their significant others, through the full exercise for, it's like 3 hours. And got awesome feedback from the significant others. And then we now had couples who were working for their entire year on, hey, what are we getting done that's on our dreams list? And
that's awesome.
And then last year we changed our end of the summer event. So instead of a Conference of Champions or SC3, our division now just has our dreams retreat. So it has nothing to do with Cutco at all. We take people to, this summer was like a true like kids camp. So they're like staying in bunks that don't have AC. We're playing basketball and volleyball in between. And we take them through some light sessions of making their dreams list and planning out their next year. So we did that last year. Did it again this year. And then I took this to our sales professional team this last year as well over the holiday. We had a separate event just for them. So it's been really cool to see people accomplishing dreams. I have people that I see that used to work with our organization that no longer do, but I'll see on Facebook that they'll be, hey, just ran a Tough Mudder across another thing off the dreams list. And so it's cool to see that they're taking this principle with them, beyond their time at Cutco.
Wow, that is so amazing, Dane. I really love how you're leveraging this concept at every level in your organization. And it started with you, right? You said that it started with you and Brookelynn sitting down, writing down all of your dreams, and you said you're going to pursue your dreams and you're going to do it out loud, right? So you're telling people about all the things that you're striving for and why you're working so hard, and then as you're achieving them, checking them off publicly, right? So people can see you living the life of your dreams, living the life that you wanted to design for yourself and for your family. And then, of course, that I think the natural next step is that people want to do the same thing, and you're able to help facilitate them writing down all of their dreams. And what you're really doing with this is you're connecting people to their why, right? Mm-hmm. You're connecting people's work and their day-to-day activity to why they're doing that. Because, none of us live to work. We all work to live. And so what are the things outside of work that we are chasing? And how does what we're doing in our work facilitate the opportunities for us to do that, whether it be the financial opportunities or the opportunities through networks that we develop or through having a flexible schedule or all those things put together to be able to live the kind of life outside the business that we want to be able to live. I just love how you've taken that and done that with your managers, done that with your top sales reps now. And even newer sales reps are being exposed to the idea at your SLDM meetings that you have. So really, really, really cool.
Yeah, I enjoy it. We're now like this year, the new iteration of this, I feel like it continues to kind of evolve is, now I'm trying to do any money that I spend on people within my division, it's geared towards that specifically. So for instance, we've got, the name Seth Kinzer, he's our top producing individual, one of the best in Cutco, and he's getting married in 2 weeks. And so I said, I looked on their registry and I'm like, God, this is such boring crap, right? It's like, and it's the normal registry stuff. And I sent him a message. I'm like, I need your updated dreams list. Like, I need to spend money towards one of your dreams that's on there. And it's just, I think that it'll be cool when it happens, but he'll also say, yeah, that makes sense that's from him. And so I'm trying to funnel. I spend money anyways on people in the organization. It's like, that should be in line with that type of stuff. So it's been fun. I did it with my mom as well, and tried to help her create her own dreams list. The goal is always to get over 100, right? And you're forced to get more specific with it, and it's just the whole idea behind all this. I think sometimes when people hear dreams, it's like, oh, it's that high in the sky, floofy, whatever, right? And I think that it just when somebody really works on it and they kind of grasp the full idea, there's so many things that aren't fluid. It's, hey, I want to get in better shape, and here are the things that I want to accomplish while I do it. And here's some charity things that I want to do. And it's basically, it just gives them such a cooler menu of things to plan the year after. And it gives, I know when I was, everybody's different, but I know when I was college student in young 20s, saving money wasn't fun at all. Saving money for a purpose can be really exciting. And, that's essentially, this brings purpose to what they do in work, but it also brings purpose to their health, to their relationships, to, everything.
Yeah. So insightful. I love the idea of gifting according to the dreams of your people, right? If you're gifting to your own organization, your own employees, your own staff, gifting that's connected to their dreams is a really cool way to do it. I think that's a really neat idea that people could implement for sure. And I can remember the same exact meeting with Matthew Kelly, by the way, because I was sitting in the same room with you. Mm-hmm. Matthew Kelly said, you got to write down 100 dreams. And I just thought to myself, you know what? A lot of these people are going to write down 100 dreams. I'm going to write down 101. So I wrote down 101. And like you, I sort of filed that away and didn't think about it a whole lot afterwards. And I can remember looking back at my list of 101 things. And I'm pretty sure it was 2 years later that I looked back at my list of 101 things. And a lot of these were pretty long-term things that weren't just going to happen right away.
Right.
I think I had achieved something like 37 of the 101 things on the list in short order, like in a 2-year period. And I do believe there's a magic in just the identification of our dreams, because our mind is a remarkable supercomputer. And it operates much like a heat-seeking missile does. When you give it a target, it finds its way to that target. And just the act of writing down dreams in and of itself is powerful. Of course, even much more so if you are looking at that list, reminding yourself of that list, working toward that list, setting dates and targets for some of the things on that list. But one way I've implemented this concept is in travel, right? It's like I've always had a list of like places I want to visit. I've got my North America to visit list, and I've got my international to visit list. And I've tried to knock off one of the international sites per year, or at least one every 2 years, depending on where the Cutco company trip ends up being. A lot of times I'll visit one of my other, sites. And then I've also tried to knock off like a couple of the North American sites per year in planning vacations. And that way I'm not just having vacations that are repeated, locations all the time, but I'm experiencing a new place. I'm experiencing a new element of culture. I'm checking something off that I really wanted to check off. So I just love the whole concept, and I think it's a great, great idea, Dane.
There's one other part that I think was so evident running this last year's, it was like, 2-3 weeks ago, we just did I call it the second annual Dreams Retreat, because we're for sure going to continue doing this, was it gives everyone who's going through it a common language, or I should say a common platform to have discussions about so many different things. So we can engage in a conversation about building wealth through real estate or building wealth through investments, because there's a financial category, right? And there's all these things that are on there. We can hopefully, ignite somebody's travel passion through them hearing about a DM that accomplished theirs. So I started this year's off a little different, and I had all the district managers prepared and some of our branches. Hey, anybody who was here last year, take 5 minutes. I want you to look through this last year, and I'm going to have you share all of the dreams that you accomplished this last year. And it was such a cool way to start the meeting for these 18 to 22-year-olds to be able to hear from other 18 to 22 and some, older on hear all the things that I did this last year. I think by doing this, it also, keeps the small things for our managers and myself, right? Hey, I had a bad day. That's no big deal, because I've got this next thing that's, a month away or 2 months away. There's always something that's coming up that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. So tell me, besides the idea of writing down a list, what other advice would you have for people who want to live more of their dreams?
I think that one is getting clear on which ones that you're able to are very attainable in the coming year. And the large things, like you said, right, when you looked at your list, you're like, some of these things are 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the making, right? And there's also ones that are on there that aren't necessarily a check it off the list thing, but it's, hey, I want to be a great son or a great husband. And that's kind of a, obviously an ongoing thing. But it's picking 5 to 10 and then taking action on some of them right away. And whether that means, hey, let me go online and find the next Tough Mudder and book it right now so I can say that I'm committed to my first dream that's on the list. I think that's the easiest way for someone to do it. Making the list obviously is number one, and then taking some action on something is a great number two. And then also understanding that by growing and earning and saving, those things are only going to help you get closer to these things.
Yeah, for sure. Your idea about taking action right away is it's a simple, and yet it's really a vital point for people to consider and think about. Hal Elrod has a quote where he says something about, one of the greatest mistakes people make is not realizing how much today matters. And in any dream or goal that we have, sometimes it's so far out there that you can't exactly see it. You can't exactly envision how it's going to come to fruition. And it's sort of like a boat that's beyond the horizon in the water. You don't see it. But if you move in that direction, eventually you see it. Eventually it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. And then ultimately you reach it. And the key is that inertia, which starts with the first step. And your concept about, like, if your goal is to do a Tough Mudder, like, find one in your area and sign up. Like, that's a great step in the right direction. It's not the only step that's necessary to be able to accomplish the goal, but it is an important step in the right direction. And that whole idea of, like, what are the things you can do today that can make you move you one step in the direction of the dreams that you have. Everybody who's listening to this can think about that question and can think about something they could literally do today that will move them one step toward their dreams. And by doing that, and then taking the next step and the next step, that's how people like you achieve a life that other people want to have, and achieve all the dreams that other people are envious of. It's just setting the goals, making the plan, and then beginning to move in that direction. It's such an important, insightful point.
And we also heavily promote dream stealing. So the cool thing is, when people are in these, we do these 5 to 7 small group share that goes around. And then even myself, I'm constantly walking around with my phone like, ooh, that's a good one, right? And adding it to my list. And so we heavily encourage that, there's no trademarks on these, and you should be hearing things and jotting them down on your list, or at least maybe doing some research and say, that sounds cool. What's that about?
Yeah, we all need people in our life that we want to emulate, and I think that dream stealing is a part of that. Is like finding role models that have some of the things we want, and identifying that, hey, that's a part of who I want to be. Also, putting it on our list. So that's really cool. Well, listen, Dane, as you look ahead into the future, 5, 10 years down the road, what are you most excited about?
I am, first is definitely out of vector stuff. So my family, for sure. We've got my eldest daughter turns 3 on Friday. That so is cool. A whirlwind, but it is awesome. And then we've got one other little girl who just turned 1 in June. And so, raising those two and seeing how they grow and change is what I'm most excited about, and just family in general. Brookelynn and I try and keep things exciting with little trips for us as well. And we just moved to a new area, so we're kind of exploring that and stuff as well. In Vector, I'm really excited about the evolution of our business. I just think of the whole question of 5 to 10 years ago. If I look back 10 years ago, Vector looks pretty different. And in terms of everything internally, to how an office is run, to how we sell Cutco. And I'm really excited about what the next 10 years is going to look like within the business. And the core of the business doesn't change, which I'm glad, right? It's still all about the people and growing individuals. And so, I'm excited that won't change, but I'm really excited about the use of technology, what that's going to mean to the organization, and also the different channels and avenues that there are to sell Cutco. I believe wholeheartedly in the product, and it's really cool to see it being sold at, federal bases, and not just at fairs and shows and online and through the realtor program. And there's just the new service call stuff. I'm certain in 10 years, there's going to be 3, 4, 5 other ways that we're selling Cutco that we can't even think of right now. And that stuff really excites me. Being with a company that I know I can stand behind very firmly in the way that it's run by the people that run it, and then and also the product and how it holds up.
Yeah, outstanding, Dane. I love what you said when you said, the business is about growing individuals. And that really is what Cutco and Vector does as a company. We're a people development organization. And we just happen to use Cutco knives as the vehicle to make that happen. And it's great to have a product that is so useful and so high quality that it's easy to sell. And it provides us these opportunities. But at our core, Vector Marketing and Cutco is a people development organization. And you have been one of the best in the business at doing that for many years now. I posted a quote on my LinkedIn account that I heard just the other day. The quote originated from one of my college professors at Santa Clara, who wrote a very famous leadership book called The Leadership Challenge. And the quote is that leadership is a relationship between those who aspire to lead and those who are inspired to follow them. And when I think of you, Dane, I think of someone who people want to follow. People want to be like you. You have an amazing and genuine zeal for life, and so many qualities and attributes that make you a great role model for so many other people. And I just appreciate being able to have your insights here on the podcast. I enjoyed this, and I think people will have had a lot of fun listening to you, and particularly implementing the dreams concept for themselves and in their organization. So, hey, thank you very much for your time today.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks so much. This has been great.
That was Dane Espegard. He is a real superstar in the Cutco Vector Marketing business. Of course, #1 sales office in the company in 2018, one of the top divisions in the company here in 2018 and 2019 so far. And I think you can see why. I love where Dane talked about realizing that his talent, his energy, his charisma, his work ethic would cap him out at a certain level of achievement. And that what was really important was that he got involved in the process of actively growing every single day and advancing his personal growth. It was cool hearing him share some of the people that have mentored and led him: Kevin Hanna, Dave Durand, Greg Strine, Mike Muriel. Shout out to you guys if you're listening. You've had a powerful impact on not just Dane, but so many others. And then, of course, meeting Matthew Kelly, reading The Dream Manager. I wrote a blog about the 10 books that have most impacted my life, and The Dream Manager is on that list. If you go to the changinglivespodcast.com webpage and just click on blog at the top, you'll see my books blog. And Dream Manager was in there. And I just love the idea of identifying our dreams, making the list, reviewing the list from time to time. And then Dane's biggest tip, which is pick a few of them, do something to take action on those things right away to begin to move toward those dreams, to move toward those goals, to move towards those visions, and continue that process. And you'll find you'll achieve a lot more than you thought was possible. And it truly is the beginning of living a life by design. Dane Espegard is a great example of that. And we can all be the same as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.